test, and then we do this we assignment as well. So it's this one, Zoro Limited. So it's quite like that Nevis question we just did. Zoro Limited are a manufacturing company, and the following information relates to a manufacturing business, which is 2 production departments and 2 support or service departments. So we have our production departments, we have machining here, we have finishing, and we have the 2 service departments, the corporate services and the management services. And they have some that are allocated directly to them already. And then we have these general ones that we're going to have to share out. So in the last one, they didn't have any that were specifically given to them. We just had to share out those general overheads. But in reality, they'd have a certain amount. So that could be like the supervisors for those different departments, their wages and things like that, or something that that department specifically incurred. So allocated means I could give them directly to them. They belong to that department. Whereas general overheads, we call them apportion them, which means share them out. So we have 4. So we had 5 in the last one, but we have 4 in this one to share out. We have machine running costs. We have machine depreciation. We have premises costs, and we have indirect staff costs as well. And we can see that we're given machine hours, we're given machine value, we're given the floor area in square meters, we're given the number of staff, and we're given labor hours. And then we're told, so we can see that machine hours, only the machining and the finishing of those, they only have machine value. They all have obviously some of the floor area taken up. They all have a number of staff, and they all have labor hours. And we're told that the 2 support departments carry out work for the production departments, but do not work for each other. So you'll be glad to hear that, Veronica. There'll be no resharing of the service departments back in. So you'll just be doing kind of what we did in the Nevis ones. So they don't work for each other. The overhead costs allocated and apportioned to the corporate service departments are to be reapportioned between the productive departments based on the staff numbers. And then the overheads allocated and apportioned to the management services are to be reapportioned between the productive departments in the basis of machine hours. So our requirement is, number 1, to calculate the overhead to be absorbed by each department, stating clearly the basis of apportionment used. Reapportion the overhead costs apportioned and allocated to our support department, so your corporate and management, into your productive departments. And then part 3 says, as the management accountant of Zoro Limited, write a report to the directors and outline why it's important for a business to account and allocate overheads correctly. So 40 marks going for that. So that's given a bit of background on what overheads are, why you share them out, why it's important. So have a little bit of a read. Remember that chapter I kind of put up a couple of weeks ago as well. That will help you with that one. And then there's a few marks there for professional marks for your layout, your language in the assignment. And if you reference any outside material, putting in any citations for them. So if you reference any outside material. Now, some of you may not do that. You might just write a report based on why you think it's important. But if you do, make sure you give the source for it. You do your little bit of referencing if it's something that you do. So 50 marks going for just kind of pretty much what we were doing, and then 40 marks going for writing a report to the directors. Now, I just want to give you a couple of little tips on writing a report. You guys will be writing kind of, I'm sure you've written reports before, but just in case anybody hasn't. So if you're writing a report, now obviously you'll be typing this up nice and neatly, not writing like my scroll. But to write a report to somebody in a professional capacity, what we do is you have to say who it's to. So that's obviously going to be the directors, depending on the requirement you're given. So you put who it's to. Sorry, my share screen is not on. Hang on. Now, so we write, so a report, the layout says who it's to. So that will, your requirement will always tell you who you're writing it to. It could be the board of directors. It could be simply a reply to somebody that asks a question or something like that. So it could be to the directors or whatever it is. And you write who it's from, and that's you. And in an assignment, it's fine to put your own name into these. They kind of always say to us in exams, you shouldn't put your own name, but it doesn't really matter. And then you write what it's in reference to. So that could be, you know, that's again based on the detail of what you're being asked. So you could simply call it the importance to allocate overheads correctly or something like that. So again, take your reference to whatever the requirement is. So something like the importance of correct allocation of overhead, something like that. Just, you can put a date on it. And you can put your date over here either, it doesn't matter. And then you start it off. So you will go, dear directors, or dear whoever it is, management, whatever you're doing it to, you must give an introduction. So that could be something as simple as, below are my findings on why it is important to allocate overheads correctly, something like that. You know, something to introduce what it is you are putting in your report. Then you do your main body of your report, and you don't put headings of introduction, main body, you just give an introduction. So that's your explanation of why it's important. And then you give a conclusion. And a conclusion and allocated so far. We did before. Like environment you're given. So you put who it's to. Sorry, my share screen is not on. Hang on. Now, so we write, so a report, the layout says who it's to. So that will, your requirement will always tell you who you're writing it to. It could be the board of directors. It could be simply a reply to somebody that asks a question or something like that. So it could be to the directors or whatever it is. And you write who it's from, and that's you. And in an assignment, it's fine to put your own name into these. They kind of always say to us in exams, you shouldn't put your own name, but it doesn't really matter. And then you write what it's in reference to. So that could be, you know, that's again based on the detail of what you're being asked. So you could simply call it the importance to allocate overheads correctly or something like that. So again, take your reference to whatever the requirement is. So something like the importance of correct allocation of overhead, something like that. Just, you can put a date on it. And you can put your date over here either, it doesn't matter. And then you start it off. So you will go, dear directors, or dear whoever it is, management, whatever you're doing it to, you must give an introduction. So that could be something as simple as, below are my findings on why it is important to allocate overheads correctly, something like that. You know, something to introduce what it is you are putting in your report. Then you do your main body of your report, and you don't put headings of introduction, main body, you just give an introduction. So that's your explanation of why it's important. And then you give a conclusion. And a conclusion can be something as simple as, I hope that clarifies, or I hope that makes it clearer why it is so important to allocate overheads. You know, contact me if you need any further information or clarification or something, you know, something just to finish it off. And then you sign it off. So that could be yours faithfully, usually in a kind of a formal report. If it's an email that you're just replying to, obviously it's a little bit more informal. You kind of use regards and stuff like that. So you can sign off with yours faithfully, and we might just spell it right. And your name. So there's always a nice few marks, even in exams, if you're asked to write a report or anything like that, to give the layout of the report. And in terms of business and even accounting, it is so important to be able to put together reports, because if you're working in teams and stuff like that, that's what, you end up doing a lot of report writing. So who it's to, who it's from, what it's about, the date you're doing it, dear whoever it is, give an introduction, tell them what you're about to tell them, put the main body in, that's your explanation, and then finish it off, conclude it and sign it off. So it's just to kind of give you a little bit of an idea of the layout that you need. Now, people always say to me, word count, Deirdre, you don't have anything in terms of word count on there. I'm not looking for a thesis or anything like that, so I didn't bother with a word count on it. I want you to do your first part and then write a report. Now, the report can be anything up to 1,000 words if you want it to be, but I mean, 500 words is probably loads for this. It's not, I don't want you to write me a big essay. I just want it's quality as opposed to quantity in terms of any of these reports. So, go in there, do your report, have a little read on why it's important to allocate overheads. Like, really, it's to try and get the cost of your product correct, isn't it? If I don't know what it's costing me to make my pen, how can I actually come up with a selling price? Or if I'm selling them for €3 and I don't know how much they're costing me, I have no idea whether I'm making money or losing money. So controlling costs is always really important in any business, not just manufacturing. We have a tendency to hone in on manufacturing for management accounting, but really it's relevant to every business. Any questions on that for me?
Deirdre.
Yeah, go ahead, Leandro.
So we're gonna do everything in how can I say? Like, we can do like in Excel and just put it in a Word document.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, pop it into a Word document. If you want to do Excel, or you can just do a table in Excel. You can upload a Word and an Excel document if you want, but most people just put the table into a Word document and then write the report. But I mean, it's up to yourselves. It doesn't matter. There's 2 files allowed to be uploaded. So if you want to do the first bit in Excel and then write your report in Word, that's fine as well.
Okay, perfect. And you said there's no word counting for the report, but would you have like more or less?
Well, like, you should be in and around 500 to 1,000 words. Like, let's leave it at that. But I mean, it's really about the quality, not the quantity. I mean, I could write 1,000 words of absolute waffle and it means nothing, So there's no point. I don't want people to feel under pressure about this report. It's only to kind of, give an idea around why we do this. The calculation part obviously is worth quite a few marks. So between 500 and 1,000 words, anywhere in there is fine.
Perfect. Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions on that, guys, before we go for a little break?